Okay, well, yeah.
Get started. I think we can get started. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Case-Cohen.
Yeah, I'll check in the audios.
Looks like audio's good.
Yep, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. I'm Alex Case-Cohen. I am the Production Ag Coordinator with the Spokane Conservation District. I just started with the Spokane Conservation District in January. I work with Ty Meyer, who's become a great mentor for me in this great work that we're doing here. So today I'm talking to you about this network or this program that we've started called the BioFarming Group. So I'm really excited to share this with you all. Yeah. Okay, so for today, I will take a step back. We'll go back to my master's thesis. So I studied at Evergreen. I got my Master of Environmental Studies at Evergreen. That's what brought me to Washington State. And we'll take a look at that and the work that I did then and how it relates to what I'm doing in the biofarming group and kind of how my work within conservation districts got us to where we are today. So another component, we'll look at the biofarming groups and what they are, and we also have some exciting news to share where we're hoping to grow this program and encourage other conservation districts in the region to create their own biofarming groups following a specific curriculum that we've created and lesson plans. So that's kind of where the goals and future outlook are. But first, I am going to ask that you all please be patient with me. I have a 6-week-old, so her name is Selah. She's the best. Thanks. Yeah, it's a lot. You know, it took a lot of planning and prep to be here. I gotta tell you that. But she's, wonderful and healthy. And so if I stumble over my words, if I forget concepts, please bear with me. It's been a rough while. So, but also just a fun opportunity to share pictures of my cute little one. So. Okay, so we're going back to 2017 and 2018. So I studied at Evergreen through the Master's of Environmental Studies program. If anyone's looking for a master's program, I will say this is a great program to join because you have the ability to create your own thesis, essentially. And that's what I did. So I knew that I was interested in soil and working with farmers and learning about soil health. And through that program, I was able, I asked the question, what is the soil health knowledge, or SHK, of farmers in the Yakima Valley? So I chose the Yakima because it was the largest ag economy in the state. And I believe at the time it was like the 5th largest in the nation. I mean, Yakima's got a ton of production going on. And I just, instead of staying in Thurston County, I wanted to make it way more complicated and more expensive to go to another part of the state. So I did work with 15 farmers. And I asked them a series of interview questions. I looked at their demographics, how long they've been farming, how long their families had been farming, where they cited getting that knowledge of soil health. And another component, so we had this interview component that took about 2 hours per farmer. And in addition, I asked them to self-identify 2 fields. One was of high fertility and one was of low fertility. And then I kind of ran some statistics to see, what parameters or if there was any causal relationships found between their interview questions with their fertility. So we collected soil samples and measured bulk density, percent organic matter, carbon to nitrogen ratio, and then of course had a really in-depth lit review. It was fascinating. So the biggest thing I took away were the communities of practice. So the largest group of participants came from this community in Harrow, Washington. So there's a lot of mint production, wheat production, annual rotation that happens in this region, vegetable production too. There's one individual who encouraged 8 participants to join through what's called snowball sampling. So that really this communities of practice is what I found to be the biggest driver for adoption of agricultural practices. Now there's other findings that I had, right, of having a trusted individual, so like a conservation district employee, a technical assistance provider, who they develop a relationship over time, who helps them to implement new practices, to try new things, to look for funding. That's what we do. That's why I pursued a job in the conservation district world, and I'm sure the same is true for all of you. We are in this really cool place where we can provide technical assistance from an unbiased perspective and get conservation practices on the ground. Yeah, so that was 2018. That's when I graduated, and so I spent about 5.5 years working in conservation districts. I started in Stevens County as a BSP, or Natural Resource Farm Planner, working under BSP. Through that role, I started the Northeast Washington Soil Health Stewards. We collected a group of about 60 individuals interested in learning about soil health and wanting to try cover crops and rotational grazing, all sorts of things. And then, of course, attending the Farm and Food Symposium in Spokane with the Spokane Conservation District. And if any of you haven't attended, even if it's, I know it's on the east side, so some of you who are on the west side, it might be a bit tough to get to, but it's a great conference. I've learned so much every time I attended. Before I worked for the Conservation District, I was like so energized and stoked on soil health. So I highly recommend that you attend. And then last summer, Vicki Carter, the executive director, encouraged me to join the Spokane Conservation District, working under this biofarming group. And I'm just really excited to share it with you all today, what we've done and what we're hoping to do in the future. Okay, a little small. Right, so the biofarming group itself started in 2017, and it began with a cohort of 10 producers. So this predates me, right? This was started by Ty Meyer and Scott Gale, and they found that producers were looking for more information, and we're of course looking for those communities of practice that I talked about earlier. That's the thing that we found the most difficult for the adoption of regenerative agriculture is these people feel that they're the odd person out, right? They feel like they're trying these new things, that they want to ask questions, get answers, but anytime they talk to their neighbors or go to the coffee shop, they kind of feel like they're viewed kind of strangely. Everyone's kind of looking at their fields like, what are they doing? So it can be really isolating, and folks can feel lonely. So Ty and Scott created this group to bring that community of practice into fruition. So addressing those isolation and social pressures faced by these local producers. One of the things that there's a basic metric within our groups, because these are all large-scale producers that we're working with in the Palouse and then Spokane counties, really across the state and the region. They all started with direct seeding. So they were already interested in no-till and direct seeding, many of them doing it for over 30 years, right? So one thing that we found is we're targeting those early adopters and innovators. I can't remember, again, mom brain right now, but there's a talk that Ty showed me a few months back that was just like mind-blowing, where when you focus your effort and energy on those early adopters and innovators, that's where the true change takes place, because you can end up spending much of your time trying to convince people to try something new, when in reality, you should focus on the folks who are already interested, already invested, and make others want to join based on the success or the efforts of those who are interested in really trying the hard stuff. So again, these basic metrics are an interest in direct seeding, interest in planting cover crops, and then a desire to reduce synthetic inputs and herbicides. So reducing applications of synthetics across the field. And I think in general, just an interest in stewarding the land and wanting to improve their land for future generations. So that's kind of how it started. Okay, and here's a fun video. I think, hold on.
Oops, do I need to change that audio?
Maybe.
Okay, let me see if I can.
get that sorted real quick.
Thanks.
Sorry for technical difficulties.
No worries. So, how many of y'all are interested in regenerative agriculture? Okay, cool. Seeing a good hand of people. And do you all work with producers who are also interested in applying those practices?
I am, actually.
Oh, great. Oh, cool. Awesome. And do you have like a group of people that you work with? Or like
Not
a
really in
network?
our area. We're one of the first ones.
Where are you out of?
Gold live.
Okay,
Look at that.
nice. Cool.
Yeah, we've been doing it about 4 years now.
Cool. What are you seeing?
Quite a bit of difference. So you can actually see it after a couple of years.
Cool. Great. Awesome.
Sorry, this is.
That's okay. Yeah, I should have.
Well, the owl is not doing any sort of speaker, and the projector is also not doing any kind of speaker because it hates us. So we can, let me try how loud the computer can be. Obviously not loud. It's like, hold on it. Let me go to. See, the speaker works. There you go. That's doing what it should be doing. Ooh, maybe I can do subtitles.
Yeah.
That'll work. Yeah, they won't even turn on subtitles. Okay. Well,
Okay,
I apologize.
that's okay. I guess I can just play this in the background. So this is kind of our introductory video for the BioFarming group. I do encourage you all to go to our website and take a look. We will look at, so we have a curriculum that we're creating. We'll take a look at that. Here, let's see where that is. Yeah, so that's on our curriculum, which we're hoping to unveil, and I'll get to that later. This presentation might be a little shorter, so you guys can go get your coffee afterwards. We'll just jump forward. So our biofarming groups in practice. At Spokane Conservation District, we currently host 2 groups. There's one within Spokane County, and then one that's the South Palouse. We are currently working with 18 individual farms and 25 producers. So we have families joining, neighbors, that sort of thing. We do cover a really wide range. So we're all the way up in Mansfield, Washington, and we work with producers down in Cottonwood, Idaho. So that was one of the great parts of joining this district, was that, we don't really see county or state boundaries. We're working with producers who are interested and who are like-minded. So I think that's been a really positive thing that I've taken away from joining this team. So how we've structured this so far, the biofarming groups, we meet in the off season, we meet in the winter time, right? Because producers, you can't get a hold of them, they're out in the fields doing what they do and what they want to do. So every year, the biofarming groups start with our Farm and Food Symposium that takes place, I believe it's the week before Thanksgiving. So that's really when we start. So we bring the speakers that we want to answer the questions that we might have for that year. And then after Thanksgiving and into December is when we usually have our first meeting. Of course, that can vary and things change, but that's really how we like to structure it. So we meet at least monthly through the winter, December through March 15th. We've been meeting at the Conservation District and at Ty's place. Ty Meyer, he lives down in Colton, Washington, and outside of Uniontown. So we come, we bring, coffee, snacks, lunch is provided typically, and, you know, how each year starts. We start with like the lessons learned, so producers can bring pictures, they can bring questions that they have, they can tell us kind of how the previous field season has gone, and then we end up just discussing that for basically an entire day. We also have historically had agronomists attend. So we'll have one agronomist that the producers determine is who they trust. You know, they'll talk to Ty or myself, mostly Ty, and they'll say, this person is who we want to have in attendance. We really trust this guy who's been my field person for forever. I'd really love to have him join. So that person will come and sort of answer questions or give a presentation, give a talk, and really that's how it starts. Then on that first meeting, we kind of gather what information they want to learn over the next few months, right? Who do they want to talk to? Who do they want to see? What speakers do they want to bring? We also partner with a nonprofit called Think Regeneration. So they've helped us create our curriculum, which I'll show you. And they facilitate meetings for us. They facilitate this leadership program that we've started, which has been really successful. And they're really plugged into the regenerative community. So we've had folks joining our meetings virtually or in person to kind of talk about their experiences too. So that's been that's kind of how they're structured and how we have these meetings. And we're excited to continue to do that. So as I said, we developed a curriculum with a nonprofit with Think Regeneration. This will be unveiled this winter. We're still working on it, and I'll take you through kind of the introductory, kind of the intro for it. So the things that we talk about in these meetings too. So we're looking at all sorts of soil health practices, regenerative practices, you know, intensive rotational grazing, cover crops, applying, using biological products. That's really been a major focus for us recently. You know, I've tried to do a deep dive in, you know, literature review of what biological products are out there, what results are found, and it's really, there's not much, you know, so a lot of these producers are applying these products with, you know, they have recommendations from their field people, but that's it. You know, so they're really trying to learn on their own. And there's really, the research is just not there. So that's a lot of what they're gathering, and what we can bring to the table for them is that community where they can ask questions and see what other folks are learning. Another thing that we've introduced through this group is called their reverse osmosis watering systems. And I'm still kind of green on what they are exactly, but I know that, yeah, so there's some sort of like frequency, some way to mess with like the frequency of the water, in addition to using a reverse osmosis system, that when running chemicals through this system, when you're applying, even if they're synthetics, but you know, if you're doing your compost extracts or what have you, any synthetics that are still applied, because say, you know, these producers, they're still, you know, 4, 10, 12,000 acres of annual crops, you know, there's still some need to apply some herbicides and some synthetics as necessary. They're seeing large reductions. We're seeing at least a third or a half reduction of those synthetics applied. So this is just anecdotal evidence. We haven't done any, you know, there hasn't been any rigorous research done. You know, I can get into this grant that we just applied for, and I think we're, you know, hopefully going to get, but we're hoping to get more research done to see how effective these are, but our producers really appreciate them. And, you know, it's a big upfront cost, but they're seeing payback within a year or two maximum. So they're really big on these systems. Again, cover cropping every year, every single year is just a different year for cover crops. You can't, I mean, you know, I don't know, again, I've been sort of out of things for this year, but just from how I've observed, I wonder what cover crop production is looking like this year, what weed pressures are like in cover crop fields. You know, you all probably have a good idea of what's going on, better than I do right now. So we still are able to come together and say like, okay, what did you plant last season? How effective was it? What are you hoping to, you know, gain from next year? What are you hoping to plant next year? How are you going to do it? Again, crop rotation and trying new crops. I guess I should say new old crops. So one of the producers was like, what if I just went back to haying? And I'm like, okay, if you want to try to go back just planting alfalfa, then, we'll see how we can get that done for you, right? But just seeing, moving what crops and what crop rotation can they try to accomplish their goals, and then asking other producers in the group if they've tried it, what they think, and another big piece of what we're doing is a marketing component. So Spokane Conservation District purchased the Farm Smart certification program from the Pacific Northwest Direct Seed Association. And so this looks at the whole gamut of looks at the whole system, right? So if we, you're asking, is there wildlife habitat? What impacts to soil? What's your stir rating? What applications, what inputs are you applying? All sorts of different questions to give them a specific score, right? So yeah, I'm still learning about Farm Smart and what it has to offer, but we're hoping to combine the Farm Smart certification with biofarming. So if you're in a biofarming group, then you are eligible to apply for Farm Smart. We're hoping to certify these commodities, or potentially livestock as well. We're looking into Farm Smart beef or Farm Smart animal products to see if that's something that the consumers could be interested in. Again, so we applied for a grant through the National Association of Conservation Districts, through NACD, and the marketing piece was a really big component of that. We're hoping to do a feasibility study to see what markets look like in the region, because most producers who, in what we're dealing with wheat or commodity crops, they just are adding their regeneratively grown wheat into the grain bins, and they're not receiving any money essentially for what they're investing in their in regenerative agriculture. So through Farm Smart and through marketing, we're really hoping to support them, and that's really with the biofarming program. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at so this is our curriculum.
We will have to share
Okay.
that one.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool. Great. Okay, and maybe, so let's see, the video is here. I'm gonna see if I can play it and if the audio works.
Oh, that'd be wild. Yeah, try it.
I don't know. Nope, that's okay.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a great video. Okay, so we've used a platform called Thinkific, and Think Regeneration has put this together for us. And I might even just go in and show you some of the modules themselves. So we currently have 3 modules, one with like a quiz and feedback with 18 lessons, and you can do it on your phone or on desktop. So there's like an introduction program overview, the biological growing mindset. We have speakers like Dr. Ron White from Rutgers, who gives a really in-depth description or explanation of rhizophagy and the rhizophagy cycle, the role of biology in crop systems, measuring biological ratios in soils and plants. So it's really just a deep dive into this, into really creating a framework around biofarming. So that's what we've got here with our curriculum. And we're still kind of figuring out how we want partner districts, if folks are interested in doing this, in rolling out this curriculum, but it will be something that we hope all participants of biofarming groups can go through, and to kind of get everyone on the same mindset. That's really what we're looking for, is to make sure everyone is looking at their soil as a living system and treating their soil as such. That's what the goal of the biofarming group is. Let's see. Yeah, so integrating livestock, and then nutrient cycling, ground covering using cover crops, tillage and no-till systems, and then insect and weed protection using biological practices, and then transitioning to biological nutrition. Kind of those, that's really a huge issue, moving away from synthetics. So Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, so
Is there, can I ask a question on the,
Sure.
at the end of it, like, are you looking, like, going through this process, is this a certification of that planner or farmer?
Sure.
And then they move into participation into this biofarming group? Is that kind of the plan?
Maybe, I think, so we kind of, the goal is that, so if someone's interested in starting a group, right? It can be flourish, it can be what, you know, if you have a group of producers already, we hope that they'll do the curriculum kind of together. It'll be self-paced, but then we think that during meetings, we'll kind of review what was discussed and where everyone was. So that's what I think the first year will look like. This is a multi-year process, right? There's not a ton that really can be accomplished in one winter, right? If you're only meeting 3 or 4 times. So we're in year, what is it? I mean, we've been doing this for 5-6 years with our group in Spokane, and then 2 years now with our South Blues group. And so every single year we're developing, and we haven't figured out if there's like a phase out. You know, the producers who are joining are still finding benefit and are still, you know, they see a benefit to attending. So yeah, so we think maybe the Farm Smart certification could be what they're going for, you know, but we're still kind of thinking through that. And when we have more groups, please remember, it's just Ty and I doing this. It's me, it's 2 people. And Ty's like, you know, he's doing a lot of stuff with the loan program for direct seed equipment. So the more groups that we have, more ideas we can generate. If we have more people doing this with us, they can kind of help us figure out what needs to be tweaked, what they need, what producers are looking for too. The marketing piece was really, our producers are really interested in that marketing piece. So that's what we've kind of are focusing a lot on, in addition to having experts come in, because a lot of them feel like they're on the same level really with some of the experts that they're speaking with. I mean, many of them know more about soil health and soil knowledge than I do, right? So getting them in touch with the right people is also one of the biggest things that they're looking for. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so this series has like, is it like lectures, like videos, readings, that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, so it's readings and videos and lectures. Yep, so there's 18 different modules that you can go through. And they're just videos and some websites, and kind of, you can take deeper dives. They have more websites and articles that you can read that are relevant to the topic that's covered. So yeah, but so if we are, so let's see. If there's another video that we won't be able to play. This one, it's pretty, so I'm just gonna play it in the background. So this is Douglas Pool farm that's out in Mansfield. And so he's likely our largest producer, and he's got the lowest rainfall. You know, if you're in this region, it's 3 to 6 inches, right? It's just negligible, very minimal rainfall that he's dealing with, but he's still planting cover crops and still doing rotational grazing. So it's pretty cool to see what he's doing and what he's interested in. Yeah, so our goal with the Spokane Conservation District, we hope to grow our groups. So we currently have 2. We would like to host 2 more with our own producers. One will be more larger scale producers like we have, similar to the sizes that we work with currently. And one would be working with our smaller producers within Spokane County specifically. So a target of that too would be historically underserved producers in that group as well. And this is part of our grant. So we would be working with former producers, but we are interested or open to working with other districts in the region who would like to start their own group, or who have a group of producers in mind who might be interested in something like this. So we likely do have funding for 3 years to support these groups, to pay for technical assistance time. We would come out at least a couple of times during the first year, and producers would have access to our curriculum, and we would be present in meetings to help sort of facilitate. The goal is also with Think Regeneration to create lesson plans that are specific to the group that you're working with. You know, our producers are different from the producers that you guys are working with. So not everyone, direct seed isn't going to work for everyone, right? but there are other practices and other ways of thinking, other things that your producers are trying that you would like for us to focus on, which we certainly can do. So I'm pretty excited about doing this. I'm excited for the curriculum. I'm excited to grow this network. You know, I would like for us to expand the biofarming group to have online forums where people can ask questions to the greater group. It'd be great if we could meet on an annual basis, bringing all biofarming farmers together from across the state, across the region. You know, we're working with producers in Idaho, like I said, we're open to expanding this group. So, yeah, so like I said, we have the capacity to support up to 6 additional groups across the region. Yeah, so, and again, you know, if say there's a group that you've already started and it has another name, you know, it doesn't necessarily like have to be the biofarming group, but you know, we do have curriculum and a methodology that we found to work. So we'd be happy to share that with you all. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me. Great. So yeah, go ahead.
I think this is really cool. I was wondering if you read the book, The Lentil Underground, or heard of Kindness Seed. You should. It's a really great book. It's kind of a very similar movement that happened in Montana, but there's a similar format where farmers will do it in off season and bring in the experts that we want to hear and all that.
Cool. And what was the book called again?
The Lentil Underground.
The Lentil Underground. Cool. Very cool.
That
Thank
was
you.
a book recommendation for people that are online.
Yeah, the Lentil Underground. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? I mean, you know, we've got a bunch of time right now. So is anyone interested in starting some sort of group, or do you have a group of producers that you're working with and you kind of just like don't know where to go or how to answer some of the questions? Anything like that happening in your districts? Yes, no, maybe.
We're seeing, not at this scale, but of the biofarming that we have, from incorporating agroforestry into portions of this, with especially the cover crop component.
Great.
And just trying to, the scale is just so different, right? Compared to what we work with, but there's a lot of interest in soil health and just trying to figure out, I know farmers that would be really interested in this, but they're a much smaller scale and practices are applicable. But I love the idea of like a statewide annual conference on biofarming or regenerative ag. I think it would be a big draw for sure. And I can see where this would be like interesting to have something, you know, definitely incorporated into Wade the next couple of years to kind of like bring this expansion effort to the district. That's great. So glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm not as versed in this since I don't work as much with planting and cover crops and things, but when you were talking about the producer that had the really low rainfall and had, you know, was really gung-ho about trying different practices and cover crops and things like that, has he talked to you at all or mentioned kind of his outlook on cover crops? Because I've run into producers that say, you know, rainfall is too low, soil moisture is too low, don't want to do a cover crop. And then some other people say, well, cover crops cover the ground and it might help with evaporation. So has he spoken to that at all?
Yeah, the interesting thing that I found is no one ever says that there's not enough rainfall for cover crops. That's kind of like, and it's agreed upon within both groups. Like I, as a kind of a green person coming into the group this year, that was something I proposed. And it was like, well, we don't really think of it that way. We understand that it's beneficial, right? We know that there are long-term benefits, that you can increase the resiliency to your land, to your property. So Douglas, I mean, he's found huge success with planting cover crops, and he doesn't say that he, you know, he doesn't really, he thinks that even in his low rainfall area, that it is beneficial to plant cover crops. So,
What does he typically use?
I'm not, I'm not quite sure right now. Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Do any of your producers use NRCS programs to supplement what they're doing or not so much?
So they've tried, they wanted to, but so that's another thing. A lot of the programs that exist within NRCS, these guys sort of are phased out. They are way beyond what NRCS programs offer. So we'd like to really, that's another goal and mission that we have, is to try to make, to create a program that works for these guys. So how to read in fine detail and really, push the boundaries of what these practices say. Because many of them walk into their NRCS office and they make an application and they are denied, even with this like huge flush of money that we've had. I don't know of any of our producers if they've received any funds, which is really disheartening. So we've applied through the IRA, with IRA funding for soil health specific practices, seeing if there's a way that, the biologicals that they're applying, if you can use nutrient management, or if you can maybe, build a fence. What is a field border, right? Can you build a fence on annual crop ground if you're rotationally grazing livestock on a 1 or 2 year basis every 5 years? Like, we're asking these questions and we're really seeing if they can push the boundaries of these of what the standards say. So, go ahead.
Just having, have you guys looked at conservation innovation grants?
Yes.
Not necessarily, I guess, work with that.
Yeah, so we did.
So the question was, have you
Oh,
looked
sorry.
at conservation innovation
Innovation.
grants? Okay.
Yes, so NRCS does have a conservation innovation grant, and we did apply for it in November. We still haven't heard back if we received it or not. So that's been my job, is really like looking at all funding available to see what exists. Go ahead.
I have one producer in particular on the west side, but it includes, there is some great so I guess producers who don't feel like they fit into that role. Are you open to maybe folks like jumping across?
Sure, we're open to anything, so this person asked if there are producers who maybe don't fit in with other producers around them, we can certainly.
Yeah, I know they've expressed to me that they would like some support, so, say we're involved in different venture around that.
Yeah, so we're open. So again, we're in Spokane, Whitman, and down into in Nez Perce County and further into Idaho. So that's where we are currently. But if anyone is interested in this and they have a group of people that would like to meet regularly and go through this curriculum and learn more, we're open to it. So go ahead.
Alex, how do you go about like selecting the producers? Certainly some of them are kind of telling to like going forward with the additional groups. Is there going to be like some selection process? How's that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. We're open to ideas. How it's been currently is just like the folks who ask, who stay in touch and who ask the right questions and who have kind of the mindset. Those are the ones that we focused on for the BioFarming group. But we also, we don't want to be exclusive, but there is something to be said about, those innovators and early adopters. So if you have folks coming into your office who are like, I really want to try cover crops, I really want to graze my livestock, or I've already done it and this is what I found, but I have questions, that's sort of something that, that's sort of a metric that you can use. But because our groups have been so small, we really haven't had like a formal application process. But that's where, working with other districts is beneficial, because you guys have in your head who are the ones who are coming in who are asking those questions. So there could be room for a more formalized application process, but for now, it's more just like, well, I think that this group of people would probably get along pretty well together. But I mean, if you have ideas for other, so I guess a question I have for the Plus folks, do you guys want to talk about your Flourish program at all? I don't know if you've talked about it at all at Wade.
Yeah, you can.
Sure.
So we got a conservation innovation grant in 2022. Program's called Flourish. It started by a farmer in Lincoln County.
Can I have you like come up a little
Yeah.
closer to the L so the online folks can hear?
Sorry, Ryan.
Oh, you're good.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, so I'm Ryan Boylan. I'm the research and monitoring program manager at the Coast Conservation District. And we got a conservation innovation grant 2022 for the program's called Flourish. It means Farmers Leading Our United Revolution in Soil Health. We didn't come up with that acronym either. The farmer did. That's who started the program. And so it's 27 farmers in Idaho, Washington, and Oregon that are integrating cover crops and livestock into their annual cropping systems. A lot of them are part of the BioFarming groups actually. And so it is like NRCS funding that's kind of offsetting the risk of them trying to do this stuff. And the idea just came because we had people kept coming into our office and we're like, hey, we'd like to try cover cropping. Can you help us? And we're like, yeah. So the CIG grants are really great and super easy funding to work with.
Have you met, so has the Flourish groups, have they met like as an entity to, what do those meetings look like? How often do they take place? Have they met as a cohort or no?
Yeah. So we built in there for the group to get together at least once a year. So last fall we had the first meeting. That was really us. So we're collecting a bunch of soils data and soil moisture data to look at what the cover crops do in the fields. And so we shared a bunch of that data back and then had a bunch of conversations about what was working and what wasn't working. It's a big group and I don't have the best facilitation skills. So it sort of like went off the rails at one point. So we're like learning as we're going. And I think what Alex was saying, like, it is sort of important to have the right people in the room, but not being exclusive about that.
Having that balance.
Yeah. And then the other thing we do, we've been doing this for the last 6 years. We have this alternative cropping symposium, and a lot of the people that are participating in the Flourish program will come and present at that. And that's like open to the general public, so people can come and learn. So it's pretty cool for them to like take the information that they're learning from this group and then conveying that to whoever else is interested. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, so one thing that I found with producers too is that I want to make this, they love attending meetings and they love attending workshops and getting as much knowledge as possible, but we want to make sure that it's as concise as possible and that like we have these groups that exist where they maybe don't have too many separate meetings that they have to attend, right, also. So figuring out how Flourish, if the Flourish producers, if they're already learning about this, like, finding those folks who haven't, who might be interested to have a separate meeting, I don't know, that's another consideration too. So you don't want to oversaturate them or just like overwhelm them with information and different meetings and things they have to attend because people are busy. Producers are busy, off season, winter really isn't that much of an off season for them. So keeping that in mind and just being conscientious of their time. But we love working with Blue CD. We hope to partner with them a lot more in the future. And I mean, we're just excited to offer this to other districts and to grow this program if there is interest, So yeah.
Are you guys, have you been presenting at the Spokane conference?
Yes.
On this pretty regularly?
Yes.
Or-
Yeah.
That's
So Ty,
everybody's there anyway, so.
Yes.
It's not an extra meeting.
right. Yeah. So we've certainly been recruiting at those meetings. The interesting thing, so we orient them for producers, but like a lot of our producers don't attend because it's that over meeting saturation. Like there are so many meetings that happen in November, the field season can push into November somewhat too. So we do tailor, like we have, So a speaker from the Bionutrient Institute who's attending this year, who's going to talk about nutrient density in crops. So that's one cool thing. You know, we had Jonathan Lundgren from Ecdysis speak last year, who he's gone out this year, and I don't know, he's probably gone now, but he came out and collected a ton of samples from our producers, or from producers across Washington and Idaho. So we try to make it as relevant as possible, but again, you know, how do we make these meetings and this information as relevant as possible, encourage them to attend, but also make sure that they're not overwhelmed with obligations and responsibilities. That's kind of a big thing that we need to work through. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is it just you and Ty that are mainly like the heads of this program? Or are there other members of the CD that, like, I'm sure there's others that kind of help out when needed, but you guys are the main people that are involved with that?
Yeah, it's really us. I mean, so Vicky Carter, our executive director, is present in our meetings sometimes, but it's really just Ty. I mean, it's Ty, and then I'm here to support as well. So yeah, it's just the two of us, but with future funding, we're hoping to grow our production ag program, hire more staff, hire potentially some regenerative ag agronomists. That's kind of an idea we're throwing around, and more planners to help us do this work. Like I said, those biological inputs are such a big question that we want to be able to provide guidance without having, not a sales pitch, right? That unbiased opinion. So
What are some of the biological inputs your farmers are trying out?
So Pivot Bio, or I'm not exactly sure. There's a ton of stuff. I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, there's a lot going on in my life right now. What about you guys? What are some of the biologicals folks are trying?
There's different things. You can have a bacteria that you can spray on to help fix nitrogen in the plant, or you can have bacteria or fungi that you add into the seed. There's quite a few different options. So
exactly. There's so many options.
yes,
A lot. Yeah, the compost tea extract has been a big one, right? So, just compost extract. The compost teas, at least for our producers, they aren't, and again, there's not a lot of research on just the extract, but they aren't really letting their compost sit in tea and brew. They're not brewing their compost, they're just like running it through water and then applying that. So that's what a lot of our guys are doing. But I know that there's more research on compost teas, right? So that's another thing in another area that does require research. But do you know, what are some of your producers applying?
I'm new to Washington.
Oh, cool.
But I've worked in a couple different places. University of Hawaii actually has a good amount of, there's a researcher there, a nutritionologist, who's doing some research on free natural farming.
Cool.
And organic plants. So that's a more common practice by some commercial farmers. There's actually, when I was in college, not in Hawaii, in California, I watched YouTube videos recommended by my professor on the trunks who have a macadamia nut farm, different trunks. But I actually have to go to a workshop with them on soil health when I was in Hawaii.
Very cool. Awesome.
It was successful for them. But their experience with KNF at like a large 100-acre scale was that you really have to follow all the steps and inputs, and it's a full-time job just to make that happen.
Totally. Yeah. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. It seems like this part of the world that it's, low organic matter soil, so anything you can do to get more organic matter into the soil is going to make bio available.
Right.
Like it's just gonna jumpstart it. Like,
Totally.
that should be a major focus. How we can get more organic matter.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, that was what drove a lot of my thesis research and continues to drive a lot of what we're doing is increasing organic material. So yeah, cool. Well, here's my information and Ty's information. I'll still be slightly unavailable for the next few weeks, but checking my email occasionally. So please feel free to reach out, and yeah,